April 23rd, 1944, 05:47 hours, Dover Harbour, southeastern England. Fog rolls off the channel in thick sheets, clinging to the canvas screens that stretch across Folkestone Harbour like theatre curtains concealing a stage. Behind them, Sergeant William Mackenzie of the Royal Engineers crouches on cold sand, his breath visible in the dawn air, hands working a section of canvas stretched over a wooden frame. The frame is skeletal, pipe joints, plywood ribs, metal drums lashed together with rope. He tightens a bolt. The structure rocks slightly, not a ship, not even close, but from 3,000 feet, through a camera lens mounted in a Messerschmitt cockpit, it will look exactly like a tank landing craft, designation LCT 1147, moored and waiting. Around him 20 men move in near silence. Corporals drag sections of painted fabric across the sand. Privates hammer stakes into the shingle, securing flotation drums. The canvas screens block the view from the town. Civilians have been turned away for weeks, told only that critical war work is underway. They are not wrong. But the work is not what they imagine. There are no rivets here, no steel hulls, no engines that will ever turn over, just illusion, carefully engineered, painstakingly maintained, and utterly convincing from the altitude at which Luftwaffe reconnaissance planes operate. Lieutenant Peter Holloway checks his watch. 2 more hours until the tide changes. 2 more hours to get another dozen Big Bobs, dummy tank landing craft, secured in position. By tomorrow, there will be 255 of them, choking the harbours of Dover, Folkestone, and the surrounding estuaries. By next week, Luftwaffe photographs will show the largest amphibious assault force ever assembled, aimed directly at the Pas de Calais. Holloway moves along the waterline, stepping over coiled rope and scattered tools. The dummy craft bob gently in the swell, their silhouettes indistinguishable from genuine vessels in the half-light. A gull lands on one of the fake gun turrets, a wooden frame wrapped in canvas and painted battleship grey. The bird has no idea it is perched on a lie. Neither, they hope, does the German High Command. Further inland, past the harbour, construction crews assemble other pieces of the deception. Fake embarkation slipways, hards, run down to the water's edge. Mock oil storage tanks rise in fields, requisitioned from farmers who ask no questions. A dummy dock facility sprawls across requisitioned land, complete with cranes that will never lift cargo and pipelines that carry nothing but air. Yesterday, King George VI visited, inspected the facility, and posed for photographs with General Montgomery. The images appeared in newspapers across Britain this morning. By tonight, German intelligence analysts in Berlin will have copies on their desks. Mackenzie finishes tightening the last bolt and steps back. The dummy LCT floats true, rising and falling with the tide. Tomorrow he will return to check the joints, tighten the canvas, reattach any loose drums. Every day, the same maintenance routine, performed with the same care given to actual warships, because the deception only works if it is perfect. And perfection requires discipline. Above Dover, a low hum grows louder. Mackenzie freezes. Others stop mid-task. The hum sharpens into the unmistakable drone of aircraft engines. High, very high. Holloway raises binoculars and scans the cloud layer. There, a glint of metal, a reconnaissance plane, probably Junkers Ju 88, flying at 30,000 feet. Too high for anti-aircraft fire, just low enough for cameras. No one moves. The plane passes overhead, invisible above the clouds, its cameras clicking. Holloway lowers the binoculars. Good. Let them look. Let them photograph every square foot of Dover. Let them count the landing craft, measure the oil tanks, estimate troop capacity. Let them report back to Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt that the invasion will strike Calais in mid-July. Let them believe it. The plane's engines fade. Mackenzie returns to work. Another dummy craft waits, another piece of the lie. He does not know the full scope of the operation. He does not need to. He knows his role. Build fake ships, make them look real, maintain them until the order comes to stop. Someone somewhere has a plan. Someone has decided that this harbor full of ghosts is worth the effort. Someone believes that lies, told well enough, can win a war. He is right. The Birth of Lies, November 8, 1942, 0200 hours, 14 kilometers west of Tunis, Tunisia. Lieutenant Colonel David Strangeways crouches in the bed of a stolen German Kübelwagen, the vehicle rattling over a dirt track rutted by months of armored traffic. The night is moonless. The driver, Corporal Davies, navigates by memory and instinct. Headlights off, engine noise masked by distant artillery. Strangeways holds a Sten gun across his lap, finger resting outside the trigger guard, eyes scanning the darkness ahead. Behind them, two more vehicles follow at 50-meter intervals, each carrying men from a force, Brigadier Dudley Clark's deception unit, the inventors of tactical lies. The plan is absurd. The plan is brilliant. Intelligence reports place a German headquarters compound 2 kilometers ahead, abandoned 3 hours ago, as Axis forces retreat toward Tunis. Abandoned, but not destroyed. Not yet. Inside that compound, maps, codebooks, wireless frequencies, order of battle documents, everything a force needs to understand how the enemy thinks, how they communicate, what they believe. But the intelligence is 3 hours old. The demolition teams could arrive at any moment. Strangeways has maybe a 30-minute window, maybe less. Davies slows. Ahead, a compound perimeter emerges from the darkness. Low stone walls, a gate hanging open, buildings with flat roofs silhouetted against the stars. No lights, no movement. Either the Germans are gone or they are waiting. Strangeways signals. The Kübelwagen stops. The two following vehicles halt. Men dismount in silence, spreading into a skirmish line, weapons ready. Strangeways moves forward, boots crunching on gravel, every sound amplified by adrenaline. The gate is unguarded. Inside the compound, papers blow across the ground. A desk sits overturned. A chair lies on its side. Evacuated in haste. Good. He enters the main building. The air smells of cigarette smoke and burned coffee. A map table dominates the center of the room, covered in marked overlays, unit positions, supply routes, defensive lines. Strangeways pulls a flashlight from his belt and sweeps the beam across the table. Jackpot. He rolls up the maps, hands them to Sergeant Klein. "Everything! Take everything!" Klein nods and begins stripping the room. Filing cabinets, desk drawers, code pads stacked on a shelf. Outside, footsteps crunch. Strangeways spins, Sten raised. Davies appears in the doorway. "Sir, vehicle approaching. East Road, maybe 2 minutes." Strangeways checks his watch. 0214 hours. Close, very close. "Load everything. Now." The men work with controlled urgency, arms loaded with boxes, files, rolled maps. Strangeways grabs a wireless set from the corner, cables dragging. They pile into the vehicles. Davies starts the engine. The convoy pulls out through the gate, back onto the dirt track, accelerating into the night. Behind them, headlights appear on the eastern road. A German truck, then another. Demolition teams. 2 minutes late. 2 minutes too late. Strangeways does not look back. He stares at the boxes stacked around him, intelligence that will reveal how the enemy receives information, what they believe, where their assumptions are weakest. A force has spent months conducting deception operations across North Africa. Fake radio networks broadcasting false unit movements, dummy tanks positioned to suggest massed armor where none exists, double agents feeding misleading reports to Axis intelligence. But deception without confirmation is guesswork. These documents are confirmation. They will show whether the lies worked, whether the enemy believed. 3 weeks later, at A-Force headquarters in Cairo, Strangeways sits across from Brigadier Clark. Documents spread between them. Clark, small and precise, reads through an intercepted Axis intelligence summary dated November 2nd, 6 days before the Allied landings in North Africa. The summary lists Allied forces in Egypt as twice their actual strength, positioned exactly where A-Force's fake radio traffic placed them. Clark looks up. They believed it. All of it. Strangeways nods. The deception worked. The Axis committed reserves to defend against phantom armies, weakening their response to the real invasion. Lies, coordinated and consistent, changed the outcome of the battle. Clark lights a cigarette, exhales slowly. Montgomery wants something similar for France. Bigger scale, full theater deception. He asked for you specifically. Strangeways pauses. France is not North Africa. France is the main event. France is everything. What kind of resources? Clark slides a folder across the table. Everything you need. Engineers, wireless operators, command authority. You choose the personnel. You design the structure. Call it whatever you want. Strangeways opens the folder. Blank organizational charts. Unlimited potential. He thinks for a moment, then writes a single letter at the top of the first page. R for reconnaissance. A name designed to mislead, just like everything else he will build. R Force. Building an Army of Ghosts, January 12th, 1944. 14:30 hours. A requisitioned manor house, Hampshire, England. The room smells of damp wool and coal smoke. 37 men sit in rows of mismatched chairs, exhaling steam into cold air. Some wear Royal Engineers insignia, others Royal signals. A few unidentifiable patches, transfers from units that officially do not exist. At the front of the room, Lieutenant Colonel David Strangeways stands beside a blackboard, hands clasped behind his back, eyes scanning the assembled faces. He has chosen every man here. Volunteers, but not in the traditional sense. Volunteers who understand that what they are about to do will never appear in official histories, will earn no public medals, and will require them to lie to their own side, as often as to the enemy. Strangeways picks up a piece of chalk. R Force. He writes the name. 2 letters. Deliberately vague. If anyone asks, we are reconnaissance, light scout cars, support operations, boring work. He turns to face them. The truth is different. We are a deception unit. Our job is to make the German High Command believe things that are not true. To do that, we will use every tool available. Fake equipment, false radio transmissions, visual deception, double agents, and strategic leaks. We will create entire armies that do not exist. We will make them so convincing that the enemy commits real divisions to counter phantom threats. A hand rises. Captain Harold Fletcher, Royal Engineers. How large is the unit, sir? Strangeways glances at the roster. Right now, 43 personnel. By June, over 200. We are absorbing several existing units, Royal Engineers camouflage companies, Turner's department, which has been building dummy airfields and installations, and number 5 wireless group, which will handle all radio deception. Fletcher nods slowly, processing. 1 to 200 men, a full battalion, all dedicated to lies. Strangeways continues. We are organized into 3 main components. First, physical deception. Engineers will construct and maintain dummy tanks, aircraft, landing craft, and infrastructure. These must be perfect. If a Luftwaffe reconnaissance photo shows a tank that is 3 meters too short, the entire operation fails. Second, wireless deception. Number 5. Wireless group will simulate radio traffic for entire corps. They will transmit using captured German procedures, so the enemy's signals intelligence believes they are intercepting real communications. Third, coordination with intelligence services. MI5 runs double agents. We feed them information. They pass it to Berlin. Everything must align. Dummy tanks appear where the double agents say they will appear. Radio traffic matches the fake order of battle. Visual deception supports the narrative. He taps the blackboard. Operational security is absolute. You do not discuss our force outside this unit. You do not mention deception operations to other units. You do not write letters home describing what you do. As far as the rest of 21st Army Group is concerned, we are a reconnaissance unit with support companies, understood? Nods. Murmurs of affirmation. Strangeways erases the blackboard. Good. Dismissed. After the briefing, Fletcher approaches. Sir, a question. The enemy will have intelligence sources in England. Spies. Informants. What happens when they report that our divisions are made of rubber? Strangeways smiles faintly. They already have. Every German agent in Britain has been captured and turned. They work for us now. MI5 controls them. When they report back to Berlin, they say exactly what we tell them to say. The enemy thinks they have eyes inside England. They do. But those eyes see only what we want them to see. Fletcher exhales slowly. That is either the most brilliant intelligence operation in history or the most catastrophic failure waiting to happen. Strangeways picks up his cap. We will find out in 5 months. I'll continue with the remaining sections to complete the full 50-minute script. Operation Bodyguard, The Grand Illusion, November 28, 1943. 1920 hours. Soviet Embassy, Tehran, Iran. The conference room is thick with cigarette smoke and the weight of empires. Prime Minister Winston Churchill sits at the head of a long table, his bulk settled into a chair that creaks with every shift of position. To his right, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, jacket draped over his shoulders, hands resting on the arms of his wheelchair. Across from them, Premier Joseph Stalin, expressionless, a cigarette burning between his fingers. Behind them, military chiefs and intelligence officers stand in clusters, papers clutched, voices low. The Tehran conference has been underway for 3 days. The question on the table tonight: can deception win wars? Colonel John Bevan, head of the London Controlling Section, steps forward. He is British, precise, and carries a leather folder stamped Top Secret in red block letters. Churchill gestures for him to proceed. Bevan opens the folder and extracts a single-page summary. Gentlemen, Plan Jael, later redesignated Operation Bodyguard. He pauses. The room quiets. The objective is strategic deception on a scale never before attempted. We will make the German High Command believe that the Allied invasion of Northwest Europe will occur later than planned, and in multiple locations other than the actual target. He places a map on the table. Europe, from Norway to the Mediterranean. Red circles mark locations. The deception has several components. First, Norway. We will create the impression of a major Allied build-up in Scotland, threatening an invasion of German-occupied Norway. This will force the Wehrmacht to maintain divisions in Scandinavia that could otherwise reinforce France. Second, the Balkans. We will suggest imminent operations in Greece and Yugoslavia, requiring the Germans to hold forces in southeastern Europe. Third, southern France. We will indicate a possible invasion through the Mediterranean, splitting enemy attention. Fourth, the Pas de Calais. This is the critical deception. We will convince the Germans that the main invasion will strike Calais, not Normandy. Even after the Normandy landings, we must maintain the illusion that Calais remains the primary target, forcing the enemy to hold reserves in place rather than committing them to the beachhead. Stalin leans forward. And how will you achieve this? Bevan meets his eyes. Through coordinated deception across 3 continents. In Britain, we will construct dummy armies, complete with inflatable tanks, fake airfields, and false radio traffic. In the Mediterranean, we will stage exercises and concentrate forces to suggest operations against southern Europe. In the Soviet Union, with your cooperation, we will coordinate rumors and intelligence leaks suggesting joint operations in the Balkans or against Bulgaria and northern Norway. Every channel of intelligence, signals, visual reconnaissance, human sources will deliver the same false narrative. Roosevelt speaks, his voice carrying the rasp of exhaustion. What about the Germans' own intelligence? They have agents, informants. How do you control that? Bevan glances at Churchill, who nods permission to continue. We control it because we control their agents. Every German spy in Britain has been captured and turned. They report to Berlin under our supervision. We feed them information that supports the deception. The Germans believe they have an intelligence network. They do, but it belongs to us. The room is silent. Stalin stubs out his cigarette. You are asking us to trust that your double agents will not betray you, Churchill interjects, voice growling. They will not betray us because they do not know the truth. They believe what we tell them to believe. And the intelligence they provide is corroborated by signals intercepts, photo reconnaissance, and physical evidence, all of which we control. Stalin considers this. And if the Germans realize they are being deceived, Bevan responds, then the invasion fails and we lose the war. That is the risk. Stalin nods slowly. Very well. The Soviet Union will cooperate, coordinate through our intelligence liaisons. But I want regular updates. And if this deception fails, the responsibility is yours. Churchill leans back, relief visible in his face. Agreed. Bodyguard will proceed. The meeting concludes. Officers file out. Bevan remains, staring at the map. Someone later will call this the most ambitious deception in military history. Right now, it is just a plan. Unproven, fragile. Everything depends on execution. December 6th, 1943. Plan Jael is formally approved and redesignated Operation Bodyguard. Across Britain, the Mediterranean and the Soviet Union, deception units begin preparations. In England, our force receives its orders. In Cairo, a force updates its plans. In Scotland, fake radio traffic begins transmitting. The greatest lie ever told is now operational. Section 5, Quicksilver, Manufacturing Reality. February 19th, 1944. 08:20 hours. A field outside Gravesend, Kent, England. Corporal James Thornton walks along a row of Sherman tanks, checking tie-downs and inspecting camouflage netting. The tanks are perfectly aligned, turrets facing south toward the channel, tracks leaving convincing impressions in the mud. From a distance, they are indistinguishable from the real thing. Up close, they are absurd. Thornton taps the nearest tank with his knuckles. It responds with a hollow thud. Inflatable rubber stretched over a light frame, painted olive drab with careful attention to weathering and detail. He moves to the next. Same construction, same hollow sound. 50 tanks in this field, not one of them real. He crouches and adjusts a deflated section on the lower hull, using a foot pump to reinforce the pressure. The rubber expands, regaining shape. Thornton learned this work 3 weeks ago, trained by engineers who learned it from filmmakers, specialists from British cinema studios, experts in creating convincing props. Now he is part of Operation Quicksilver, a sub-operation of Fortitude, the deception plan aimed at making the Germans believe that the invasion will strike Calais. His job: maintain a fake armored division, keep the tanks inflated, move them periodically to simulate deployment changes. Make sure Luftwaffe reconnaissance sees exactly what they expect to see. 2 fields over, another team inflates artillery pieces. Beyond them, dummy supply trucks. Altogether, Quicksilver has deployed hundreds of fake vehicles across southeastern England, concentrated in areas where the fictitious 1st U.S. Army Group, FUSAG, is supposedly assembling. FUSAG does not exist. Its commander, however, is very real. General George S. Patton, the officer the Germans fear most, has been publicly assigned to lead this phantom army. Every German intelligence analyst in Berlin knows Patton's reputation. His presence in southeast England can mean only one thing: the main invasion will strike Calais. Thornton finishes the repair and stands. Overhead, the distant drone of an aircraft. He looks up, high, very high, a reconnaissance plane, probably German, photographing the fields below. Thornton does not move, does not wave, acts as if this is a routine vehicle inspection, which it is, just not for real vehicles. The plane passes. Thornton returns to work. 5 kilometers away, at a commandeered manor house, Captain Edward Miles of No. 5 Wireless Group sits at a radio transmitter. headphones clamped over his ears, fingers tapping Morse code. He is not communicating with anyone. He is performing. The transmission is part of a carefully scripted radio network designed to simulate the communications traffic of an entire corps. Number 5, Wireless Group has 150 operators working in shifts, 24 hours a day, transmitting fake messages between fake units. Supply requests, movement orders, weather reports, all of it recorded, replayed and broadcast on frequencies the Germans monitor. German signals intelligence units intercept the transmissions, plot the locations of the radio sets, analyze the volume and pattern of traffic, and conclude that a massive force is assembling in southeastern England. They are correct about the radio sets. Everything else is fiction. Miles finishes the transmission, logs the time, and passes the script to the next operator. Outside, the manor's grounds host another piece of the deception. Fake wireless masts visible from the air, suggesting communication infrastructure for a corps-level headquarters. Across England, similar operations unfold. Near Dover, dummy landing craft choke the harbours. Fake airfields host inflatable bombers and fighters, illuminated at night by salvaged automobile headlights dragged on wheels to simulate aircraft taxiing. Sound recordings play engine noise from hidden speakers, audible to anyone within a kilometre. Fake oil storage tanks rise in requisitioned fields. A dummy dock facility, complete with cranes and pipelines, sprawls near Dover. Inspected last week by King George VI in a staged event photographed for newspapers. Every element supports the same narrative. An invasion force is assembling in southeastern England, aimed at Calais, preparing to launch in mid-July. Thornton moves to the next tank, checking seams and patches. His role is small, maintenance, but he understands the purpose. Every inflatable tank, every fake radio transmission, every dummy landing craft is a soldier the Germans will not send to Normandy. A division held in reserve at Calais is a division that will not reinforce the beachhead. Deception is not a sideshow, it is a weapon. And right now, this rubber tank matters as much as any steel one. The double-cross March 14th, 1944. 15:30 hours. A safe house, Hendon, North London. Juan Pujol Garcia sits at a small desk, pen in hand, writing in cramped Spanish script. The room is sparse, a single bed, a wardrobe, a lamp that flickers when trucks pass on the street outside. Pujol, known to German intelligence as Agent Arabelle and to British MI5 as Agent Garbo, is the most trusted spy in the Abwehr's network. He is also, entirely and completely, working for the British. Everything he reports to Berlin is fiction, carefully scripted by MI5's B1A counterintelligence division. The Germans believe he runs a network of 27 sub-agents across Britain, dock workers, military clerks, railway employees, all feeding him intelligence. In reality, every sub-agent is invented, every report is false, and Berlin believes every word. He finishes the letter and reads it back. The message describes increased military activity in southeastern England. Convoys of American troops moving through Kent, construction of embarkation facilities near Dover, sightings of General Patton inspecting units near Folkestone. All of it supports Operation Quicksilver. All of it is designed to reinforce the Germans' belief that the invasion will strike Calais. Pujol seals the letter, addresses it to a cover address in Lisbon, and places it in the outgoing mail. From Lisbon, it will reach Abwehr headquarters in Berlin within 10 days. By then, Luftwaffe reconnaissance will have photographed the dummy facilities near Dover, confirming Pujol's report. The deception will become truth in the minds of German intelligence officers. A knock at the door. Pujol opens it. Thomas Harris, his MI5 handler, steps inside, carrying a folder. Harris is an art dealer by trade, an intelligence officer by wartime necessity, and the man who has spent 2 years building Pujol's fictional network into the Abwehr's most valuable intelligence source. He sits across from Pujol. Berlin sent a reply to your last report. They are very pleased. He opens the folder and slides a decoded message across the desk. Pujol reads it. The Abwehr confirms they have corroborated his information through other sources, signals, intercepts, and photo reconnaissance. They trust him completely. Harris lights a cigarette. You are going to win the Iron Cross for this. Pujol looks up, surprised. The Germans will award you a medal. Harris nods. If we do this right, yes. You are their best agent. They believe you are risking your life to provide them with critical intelligence. When the invasion succeeds, they will assume you did everything possible to warn them, but the Allies simply outmaneuvered them. You will remain a hero in their eyes. Pujol leans back. The absurdity is staggering. A Spanish double agent inventing sub-agents who do not exist, reporting false information that the enemy believes, and receiving enemy decorations for lying. What if they realize? Harris exhales smoke. Then we all hang. But they will not realize. We control every channel of intelligence they have in Britain. Across London, in another safe house, Roman Czerniawski, Agent Brutus, composes a similar report. Czerniawski is a Polish officer, captured by the Germans in occupied France, offered a chance to work for the Abwehr as a spy in Britain. Upon arrival, he immediately turned himself in to British intelligence. Now he operates as a double agent, feeding Berlin information that corroborates Garbo's reports. Two independent sources, both controlled by MI5, both confirming the same false narrative. The Germans see consistency, they see corroboration, they see truth. In a third location, Dusan Popov, Agent Tricycle, meets with his German handler in Lisbon. Popov, a Yugoslav lawyer with a flamboyant lifestyle, has convinced the Abwehr that he has access to high-level British and American sources. His intelligence reports focus on Allied intentions in the Mediterranean and Norway, supporting the broader bodyguard deception. The Germans trust him because his information has, in the past, proven accurate. Accurate because MI5 has carefully fed him real intelligence, mixed with false information, to build his credibility. Now, when it matters most, Popov reports that Allied planners are prioritizing operations against Norway and the Balkans, with Calais as the primary invasion site. Berlin listens. Harris stubs out his cigarette. The next 3 months are critical. Berlin must believe that everything they are seeing, dummy tanks, radio traffic, agent reports, points to Calais. If even one channel contradicts the narrative, the entire deception collapses. Pujol nods. He understands. His fictional network, Czerniawski's reports, Popov's intelligence, all of it must align perfectly. Any inconsistency will raise suspicion, and suspicion will kill the deception. He picks up his pen and begins another letter, another lie, another piece of the illusion. Somewhere in Berlin, an Abwehr analyst will read it, cross-reference it with signals, intercepts, and reconnaissance photos, and mark Calais on a map as the invasion target. The analyst will never know that every piece of intelligence came from the same source, British deception planners. The greatest intelligence failure of the war is not the result of German incompetence. It is the result of British genius. D-Day, the greatest lie ever told, June 6, 1944. 06:30 hours, Omaha Beach, Normandy, France. The Atlantic pounds the shoreline in grey, cold swells. Landing craft lurch through surf that rises and falls with sickening rhythm. Men crouch inside, rifles clutched, faces pale under helmet rims, vomit on the deck plates mixing with seawater. Ahead, through the spray and smoke, the beach emerges, a crescent of sand backed by bluffs, concrete bunkers, barbed wire, obstacles driven into the shallows. Machine gun fire stitches the water, mortar rounds explode in black geysers. This is Normandy. This is the invasion the Germans did not expect. 300 kilometers northeast, at German 15th Army headquarters near Calais, Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt receives reports of the Normandy landings. He reads them with skepticism. Normandy is a diversion. It must be. Every intelligence source available to the Wehrmacht Signals, intercepts, agent reports, reconnaissance photographs points to Calais as the primary invasion site. The fictional 1st US Army Group, under General Patton, remains in southeastern England, poised to strike. The Normandy operation is smaller than expected. Therefore, it is a feint. The real invasion will come later, at Calais. Rundstedt issues orders. 15th Army will hold position. No reinforcements will move to Normandy until the situation clarifies. In Berlin, Adolf Hitler reaches the same conclusion. Normandy is a diversion. Calais is the target. He orders no major redeployment of forces. Panzer divisions that could reach Normandy within 48 hours remain stationed near Calais, waiting for an invasion that will never come. The deception holds. Our force, Garbo, Brutus, and the entire apparatus of Operation Bodyguard have achieved the impossible. Even after the Allies land in force, the Germans believe the lie. Back in England, Juan Pujol Garcia composes the most important message of his life. Dated June 9th, 3 days after the invasion, the message warns Berlin that Normandy is indeed a diversion, that Patton's fusag remains in England, and that the main invasion will strike Calais within 2 weeks. Pujol's timing is deliberate. The message is sent too late to prevent the Normandy landings, but early enough to influence German strategic decisions in the critical days that follow. Berlin receives the message, corroborates it with other intelligence sources, all controlled by British deception planners, and concludes that Pujol's warning was accurate. The Abwehr's trust in Agent Arabelle becomes absolute. Rundstedt holds 15th Army in place. Days pass, then a week, then 2. By late June, the Allies have established a secure beachhead in Normandy, landed hundreds of thousands of troops, and begun advancing inland. Still, the Germans keep 15 divisions near Calais, defending against an invasion that exists only in their minds. Our force continues transmitting fake radio traffic for fusag. Dummy tanks remain in place in southeastern England. Double agents report continued build-up. The deception persists for 7 weeks after D-Day, far exceeding the 2-week delay that bodyguard planners initially hoped to achieve. On Omaha Beach, now secured, engineers clear obstacles and unload supplies. Men dig foxholes in the sand. Light cigarettes stare at the bluffs where so many died. They do not know about our force. They do not know about Garbo or the dummy tanks or the fake radio transmissions. They know only that they landed, fought, and survived. What they cannot know is that their survival was made possible, in part, by a unit that existed only to lie, by inflatable tanks, fictional armies, and double agents who convinced the enemy to look the wrong way at the critical moment. In Hampshire, Lieutenant Colonel David Strangeways receives confirmation that the deception remains effective. He allows himself a brief moment of satisfaction. Then he returns to planning. Normandy is secured, but the war is not over. Our force has work to do. Into the continent, September 3rd, 1944. 11:40 hours, outskirts of Brussels, Belgium. The lead scout car rounds a corner, tires sliding on cobblestones slick with rain, and accelerates down a boulevard lined with shuttered shops and abandoned trams. Lieutenant William Ashford grips the frame of the open vehicle, scanning rooftops and alleys for movement. Behind him, 2 more scout cars and a wireless truck follow at 20-meter intervals, engines growling. This is our force, first into Brussels, ahead of the main Allied advance, racing to secure German headquarters before the enemy destroys intelligence documents. Ashford signals. The convoy stops. Ahead, a German staff car sits abandoned, doors open, papers blowing across the street. Ashford dismounts, Steen gun raised, and approaches. The car is empty. He picks up a document, Wehrmacht movement orders dated 2 days ago. Fresh. The headquarters is close. He waves the convoy forward. 3 blocks ahead, the building emerges. 3 stories, stone facade, swastika flag still hanging from the second-floor balcony. No guards visible. Either they fled or they are inside waiting. Ashford's team dismounts and stacks against the wall. On his signal, they breach the entrance. Interior, offices stripped, desks overturned, filing cabinets emptied, but not destroyed. Papers remain scattered on floors, maps still pinned to walls. A wireless set sits intact in the corner. The Germans evacuated in haste. Our force has arrived in time. Sergeant Davies begins collecting documents. Another team secures the wireless equipment. Ashford moves to the second floor, entering what appears to be a command office. A map table dominates the room, covered with marked overlays showing German defensive positions across Belgium and the Netherlands. Ashford rolls up the maps and hands them to a corporal. This intelligence will reach 21st Army Group headquarters by tonight. By tomorrow, Allied commanders will know the locations of every German unit in the region. Outside, the streets begin to fill. Belgian civilians emerge from buildings, cautious at first, then jubilant. They wave, shout, press bottles of wine into the hands of our force soldiers. Ashford accepts a bottle, nods thanks, and returns to work. Liberation is not his mission. Intelligence is. He has maybe 30 minutes before the main Allied forces arrive. 30 minutes to strip this headquarters of everything useful. 2 weeks later, our force repeats the operation in Rouen, France. Again, they are first into the city. Again, they secure German headquarters before demolition teams arrive. The pattern continues through September and October as Allied forces advance across France and Belgium. Our force operates at the tip of the advance, securing intelligence, but also continuing its deception mission. Dummy tanks are deployed to suggest armored concentrations where none exist. Fake radio traffic simulates divisions that are actually positioned elsewhere. The goal: keep the Germans guessing, force them to spread their defenses thin, prevent them from concentrating forces at critical points. On October 12th, our force establishes a forward headquarters in a liberated schoolhouse outside Eindhoven, Netherlands. The unit has grown to over 1,200 personnel, operating across the entire 21st Army Group front. Engineers maintain dummy equipment. Number 5 Wireless Group broadcasts fake communications. Intelligence liaisons coordinate with MI5's double agents, who continue feeding false information to any remaining German intelligence networks. The deception has shifted from strategic, hiding the invasion, to operational, misleading the enemy about day-to-day movements. It remains effective. Lieutenant Colonel Strangeways reviews the latest intelligence summaries. German forces are retreating, but they remain formidable. The Wehrmacht is fighting a defensive war now, conserving strength, attempting to hold key positions. Every German division mispositioned due to deception is a division that cannot defend where it is actually needed. Every fake radio transmission that suggests an attack in one sector is a real attack succeeding in another. The lies continue to matter. Ashford, now promoted to captain, sits in the schoolhouse courtyard, cleaning his weapon. Around him, our force soldiers perform maintenance, repairing scout cars, checking wireless equipment, inflating replacement dummy tanks. They are tired. They have been operating continuously since June, but the work is not finished. Strangeways has briefed them on the next operation, the Rhine River, the final barrier before Germany, the final deception before victory, the Rhine Deception, March 22nd, 1945. 0215 hours. West bank of the Rhine River, near Wesel, Germany. The river is 400 meters wide here, black and fast under a moonless sky. On the western bank, engineers prepare assault boats, loading them with infantry squads who sit in silence, faces smeared with camouflage paint, hands checking weapons for the 10th time. This is the real crossing. Tonight, the 21st Army Group will force the Rhine and establish a bridgehead on the eastern bank. But 15 kilometers north, at Rheinberg, the Germans are expecting a different crossing, a larger crossing, a crossing that will never happen. At Rheinberg, our force has spent 3 days preparing the deception. Dummy landing craft, improved models, more realistic than the Dover versions, line the riverbank. Fake fuel depots and ammunition dumps surround the staging area. No. 5 Wireless Group transmits continuous radio traffic simulating the communications of an assault division preparing for a major crossing operation. Loudspeakers hidden in the tree line play recorded sounds of vehicles moving, engines revving, orders shouted in English. Every piece of the deception suggests that the Allies will cross the Rhine at Rheinberg in 48 hours. German artillery, positioned on the eastern bank, has been targeting Rheinberg for 2 days, pounding the fake staging area with high explosive shells. Our force engineers set off controlled detonations timed to coincide with German fire, creating the illusion of hits on fuel and ammunition. Smoke generators produce thick clouds that drift across the river, simulating destruction. The Germans believe they are inflicting heavy casualties and disrupting Allied preparations. In reality, they are shelling empty fields and rubber boats. At Wesel, the real crossing proceeds in silence. Assault boats slip into the river, paddled by engineers who navigate by compass and instinct. The current is strong. The crossing takes 12 minutes. On the eastern bank, advance teams cut wire and mark paths through minefields. The first infantry squads land, dismount, and move inland. No German fire. The defenders are elsewhere, focused on Rheinberg. By 0400 hours, an entire brigade has crossed the Rhine at Wesel. Bridging equipment is brought forward. Engineers begin constructing a pontoon bridge under cover of darkness. By dawn, tanks will cross. By noon, the bridgehead will be secure. The deception at Rheinberg has diverted German attention and firepower away from the real crossing, allowing the Allies to establish a foothold with minimal casualties. 15 kilometers north, our force maintains the illusion. Fake radio traffic continues. Loudspeakers broadcast recorded noise. Dummy landing craft remain in position. The deception will hold for another 24 hours, keeping German forces fixed at Rheinberg, while the real assault expands the Wesel bridgehead. Only when Allied tanks begin advancing inland will the Germans realize they have been deceived. Captain Edward Miles, still with No. 5 Wireless Group, sits at his wireless set in a camouflaged truck near Rheinberg, transmitting scripted messages. Around him, German shells explode in the fields. Shrapnel pings off the truck's armor. Miles does not pause. His job is to maintain the deception. As long as the Germans believe an assault is imminent at Rheinberg, they will not reposition forces to Wesel. Every minute he transmits is another minute. The real crossing proceeds unopposed. Dawn breaks. On the eastern bank at Wesel, British tanks roll off the pontoon bridge and begin advancing. Infantry follows, supported by artillery. The bridgehead expands. German forces, finally realizing the deception, attempt to reposition, but it is too late. The Allies have crossed the Rhine in strength. The last natural barrier protecting Germany has fallen. The war, for all practical purposes, is over. At Rheinberg, our force dismantles the fake staging area. Dummy landing craft are deflated and packed. Wireless sets are powered down, loudspeakers silenced. The soldiers move quickly, efficiently, without celebration. This is what they do: build lies, maintain them, dismantle them when they are no longer needed, then move to the next operation. Lieutenant Colonel Strangeways receives word that the Rhine crossing succeeded with far fewer casualties than projected. He nods. Good. Our force has done its job, but there is no time to rest. Allied forces are advancing into Germany. Our force will continue operating, conducting small-scale deceptions to mislead German commanders about Allied intentions until the final surrender. The unit that never existed May 8, 1945. 1500 hours. Our force headquarters, Lüneburg, Germany. The war in Europe ends at 1501 hours. Radio transmissions carry the news. Germany has surrendered unconditionally. In villages, towns, and cities across the continent, soldiers fire weapons into the air, embrace, weep, collapse from exhaustion and relief. At our force headquarters, a requisitioned manor house outside Lüneburg, The reaction is quieter. Men sit in silence, processing the moment. Lieutenant Colonel David Strangeways stands in the courtyard, hands in pockets, staring at nothing in particular. Around him, the remnants of our force perform end-of-mission tasks. Engineers dismantle dummy equipment. No. 5 wireless group powers down transmitters for the last time. Liaison officers compile final intelligence reports. The unit has operated continuously for 18 months, conducting deceptions across England, France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Germany. Over 200 personnel, thousands of pieces of fake equipment, millions of fake radio transmissions, hundreds of coordinated lies, all in service of a single goal: make the enemy look the wrong way. How many lives did our force save? The question is unanswerable. Deception is measured in outcomes, not body counts. But the evidence is clear. Operation Bodyguard delayed German reinforcements to Normandy by 7 weeks, far exceeding the original goal of 2 weeks. 15 German divisions remained near Calais, defending against an invasion that never came. Those divisions could have reinforced Normandy, potentially turning the D-Day landings into a catastrophic failure. They did not. Our force and the broader deception apparatus kept them in place. Later assessments will show that German intelligence believed nearly every element of the bodyguard deception. They believed in the fictitious British Fourth Army threatening Norway. They believed in operations planned against the Balkans. They believed, most critically, that Patton's Fusag would strike Calais. Post-war interrogations of senior German officers, including General Alfred Jodl, confirm that they continued to believe Calais was the primary invasion target well into mid-July 1944, more than a month after the Normandy landings. The deception succeeded because it aligned with German expectations, was corroborated by multiple intelligence sources, all controlled by the Allies, and was executed with near-perfect consistency. Strangeways receives orders to begin demobilizing our force. The unit will be disbanded. Personnel will be reassigned or discharged. The equipment, what little of it is real, will be returned to depots. The dummy tanks, fake landing craft, and wireless recording devices will be destroyed or stored in warehouses, classified, forgotten. Our force will vanish, just as it was designed to do. A unit that existed only to deceive will leave almost no official record. In the courtyard, Captain William Ashford sits on a bench, smoking a cigarette. Beside him, Sergeant Davies cleans a rifle that no longer needs cleaning. They do not speak. There is nothing to say. The war is over. They survived. Thousands of others survived because our force made the Germans hesitate, reposition, waste resources defending against phantom threats. That is enough. Strangeways walks among the men, shaking hands, offering quiet thanks. These soldiers will not receive public recognition. Our force's operations remain classified. The broader public will learn about D-Day, about the heroism on the beaches, about tank battles and air campaigns. They will not learn about inflatable tanks, fake radio transmissions, or double agents. The lies that won the war will remain secret for decades. But Strangeways knows, and the men of our force know. They fought a different kind of war, a war of information, deception, and misdirection. They built armies that did not exist, and convinced a powerful enemy to fear ghosts. They coordinated operations across 3 continents, aligning every piece of false intelligence into a single, coherent narrative. They lied, consistently and brilliantly, and in doing so, they changed history. Juan Pujol Garcia, Agent Garbo, receives both the Iron Cross from Germany